Well, it's so good to see you all today. If we haven't met, my name is Kasey, and I'm one of the pastors here. And to all of those that are new with us, thank you for being with us today. And for those of you that are watching online, thank you for joining us there. Can we give all of those that are new with us and those watching online a warm welcome today? Can you do that with me? So thankful that you guys are here today. We continue our series today called Margin. Go ahead and take out your notes, and let's get started with the series big idea that we've been talking about the last couple weeks. It's this right here. Mission demands margin. Whatever mission you're on, whatever mission you have, and whatever you see your mission in life, whatever it is, it demands margin. And this is why we're doing this season, because we want to help you create margin in to accomplish this mission. A mission that God has given every one of us, a mission that is centered around relationships, a relationship with God and a relationship with others. And this is why we want to help you create margin in your time, and we want to help encourage you to go one-to-one. And this is what that display on our back wall is all about, where we want you to say yes to this adventure of going one-to-one, that you'll be one of 150 people who invest in someone behind you or influenced by someone ahead of you in your journey with Jesus. A lot like one of the men in our church who recently told us his story of going one-to-one, and he and his family have been a part of our church family for the last couple years, and he's a military family who just returned this past June, 3 months ago, from a deployment, and a year deployment. He was reunited with his family, and then 2 or 3 weeks ago, about 3.5 weeks ago, he got word that he had to redeploy. And that was just an overwhelming thing for him and his family who's still a part of our church family, and they were here today. And this was a hard thing for them to go through. And in this moment, he realized he needed someone in his life to influence him, someone that could come alongside of him and encourage him in his walk with faith and encourage him for this really daunting task, one that was dangerous, one that was volatile because of the situation that they were going into and the situation that they were coming out of. And as he was taking this new challenge, because this also meant that he had to take early command of a battalion that he wasn't supposed to take of command until next year. So there are so many challenges in this. And there was another West Side gentleman who heard about this, and ironically, it's amazing how he orchestrates everything. This gentleman used to be the commander of the same battalion years ago and knows the environment. So he went one-to-one with our friend. And he was able to encourage him and help him along the way. And then another gentleman that's a part of our West Side family heard about this, and he also understands leadership in these moments, and he was able to come alongside of him and encourage him and pray with him and encourage him in his faith. And through this, he told me, he goes, this has been such a monumental thing in my life to know that these other people were there to help me walk through this transition. That's the power of going one-to-one. That's the power of being influenced by someone who's gone ahead of you. And also being like these two gentlemen that came alongside of him and invested in his life. And this is why we want you to have margin in your time. Because margin, write this in, drives mission. Margin drives mission. Whatever your mission is, you won't be able to drive that mission without margin in your time, and we need the margin in our time. And this is why we've been talking about this over the last 3 weeks. This is why we opened up this series talking about how God has established a rhythm, and we need to declare war against the things that distract us from what distract our time. We needed to declare war. And then we talked about week 2, how we're going to do that we're going to see this rhythm that God has for us. And then we're going to fall into God's rhythm and create margin for relationships. And last week we taught you how God established the dining room table, a part of our everyday life to help us make margin for those relationships. And we've been talking about this through the premise of how God sees our day. And we included this in your notes today as a reminder of how God sees your day. See, God sees our day beginning in the evening. While we begin our day in the morning, God began our day in the evening. From 6 to 10 p.m., we devote the most important part of our day, the first part of our day, to what's most important to us, to relationships. And that's why the dining room table becomes this amazing opportunity to devote the most important part of our day to the most important thing, the relationships that we have. And then we have that 10 p.m. to the 6 a.m. time to rest, and we fall into the rhythm of rest because it prepares us to accomplish what we need to do. It's not the recovery, it's the preparation for the day of work. And we have the 6 a.m. to the 12 p.m. every day to do our professional work, but also to do that personal work, those chores that we have to do, and we have to pay those bills. We got to do all those things around the house, and we have 12 hours every day to devote to our professional work and our personal work. And today we're going to address an issue that many of us have, an issue that I deal with. And this is my own problem. And many of you might not deal with this issue today, but I'm going to tell you that when you do have this conflict in your life, I want you to keep these notes because it might not be something you need right now, but one day you're going to need this. And that's why there's so many notes for today. So we're going to move through this. And these are going to be, it's all through a principle that I want to help you see today. See, we're going to address this issue that when our professional work begins to be the margin monster, destroying the margin of time we have in our relationships. See, that's what work kind of does in our life. See, in order to address this properly, this idea that work is always going to demand more in your life and it's going to take time away from the people you love the most. And if that's an issue for you today, we're going to talk about it. If it's not, I want you to keep these notes for a later time. But in order to talk about this, we need to understand work within the parameters of what God sees work. And as we see through Scripture, I believe work is a dignity and is to be a blessing. That this is what work is. Work for you and I is a dignity that God has given you and I, given humanity. It's a dignity, and it's to be a blessing to our lives. It's to supplement it. It's for us to enjoy. But however, when work is abused, just like when anything is abused, it becomes a curse. When work is abused, see, work becomes a curse. God created work for us to do. And that is the blessing in it. You were created to work. This is the dignity humanity has. We are people who are created in the image of God, and we work. And we see this in the beginning narration that we have in Genesis, where the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden for this purpose, to work. See, we have this dignity. And God put man in the garden to work and take care of it. This was the blessing. And we have the blessing of work. But just like any blessing, when we abuse it, it becomes a curse. And mankind at the beginning abused what God gave us. And we took these blessings and we turned them for selfish gain. See, anytime you and I take something to do for ourselves or protect ourselves and not trust God, it becomes a curse in our life. And that's exactly what happened in this original story of of the humanity. As God gives us a blessing and we selfishly say, God, we don't need your guidance anymore. We can do it our own way. And it became a curse. And look what happens in the curse. See, the work that was a blessing turns into the curse. And this is what Genesis 3:19 says, by the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food. See, this work became the curse over this. See, there's no blessing. We got to understand a couple things here. One, there's no blessing for those who do not work. And number two, there's no blessing for those who abuse that work. And the way we abuse it is something I'm guilty of. And I don't know if you're guilty of this. I might just need to preach to the mirror today. But the blessing is abused when I overwork. And that's something we need to talk about today. And I want to help see this in this context of how our work collides with our family. See, because here's what I know about you. See, this is something that is inevitable about all of us. See, work and family will inevitably combat. Work and family will inevitably clash and collide. That your job is always going to demand more of your time. Your job, that's just the nature of what happens in our work. Your work is always going to demand more. That to-do list that you have at work is always going to grow at the faster pace and you get things done. And you know what also is going to demand more? Your family. So your family is going to demand just as much time as your work does. And it's not a matter of if you have a job that demands margin from your family, margin from your friends, or margin for the mission you have for the relationships around you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that demand will come. And this is a tension that we all have. It's a tension that we constantly have to manage. This is not something you can solve. This is not a problem you can solve. See, in work, we can solve problems. There are problems that you can solve, and you can have solutions for those. But tensions, you don't solve tensions. You manage tensions. And the way you manage tensions is not with solutions. You manage tensions with principles. That's how we manage tensions. We manage tensions, the tensions of life, through principles that guide us. Because in these tensions, these principles lead us to manageable solutions to manage those tensions. And here's the tension. See, there's going to be a time in your world, and if it's not now, it's coming, when your job and your work is going to demand something. And it's going to collide with your family. And the mission you have with your family and how you need to manage that is going to be through what I hope to help you with today. A principle that's guided me, a principle that's helped me in many things. It's a principle I learned when I read a book that's now titled When Work and Faith Collide. It's by a man named Andy Stanley. You might want to read this if you feel like later on. But this is the powerful part of this is it helped me because I have a unique opportunity, and this is a blessing. See, my job is also part of my calling. See, I get to pastor people, and I get to be a leader of this group, this gathering of people. And this is a blessing that this is my job, but also it's my calling. And so there's a privilege in this, but that collides sometimes with the time that I want with my family. Because here's the thing I know, is ministry is a monster, just like any job is a monster. It demands more. And every monster demands more. But in that, my family also demands more. And you might have a job that demands more. And you might have a family that's also wanting more of you. And not more of what you can do in a profession, but they want more of dad. They want more of their husband or their wife. They need more of you. And when that collides, how are you going to manage it? Because it's not a matter of if that comes. It's a matter of when that comes. And so here's the teaching big idea that I want to help you with as we lean into this tension that we have when faith and our family, when our work and our family collide. I choose to love my family and do my job. That's a teaching big idea today. Is I choose to love my family and do my job. This is the principle. Love your family and do your job. See, your family is there for you to love. And your work is there for you to do. And we need to keep these within the context and keep the verbs attached to the nouns that they need to be attached to. And see, we do work. We don't do our family. Isn't that what we do? But sometimes we reverse it, don't we? See, this is the reverse of it. I will not love my job and do my family. See, we need to do work at work. We need to fix problems, manage people at work. But when you get home, you don't need to work on your family. You need to love your family. You need to take the time and you need to love your family. You need to be present with them. You do your job when you're at your job, and you love your family when you're with your family. I know you're smart people. You get this. It's not good when you love your job and you do your family. See, this is where conflict arises. And maybe you're like me, because you are in a group of people like me that love to work. And I love to work. Man, the people I work with, they know I love to work. And my family also knows that I really love to work. But the problem is they need to know that I love to work less than I love them. Because if I don't love to work less than I love them, then I look like I love my work and I'm doing my family. See, whenever this collides. This is where conflict can be created when we choose the wrong thing over the other. See, what happens a lot of times in our lives is, if you're like me, you like to fix problems at work. And then you go home, and you can't fix those problems with the same solutions that you fix the problems at work. And you try to manage your house the same way you manage your employees, or the same way you manage those systems at work. It doesn't work when you're working the systems of the home. It's because those are two different environments that demand two different sets of tools. And I know we're smart people, but sometimes we forget about that. And what we do is we try to work on our family the same way we work on the people at work, and that does not work. And our spouses understand that doesn't work. And our kids understand that doesn't work. And over time, this is what ends up happening is we make work our end. I make work the end instead of my means to an end. See, I want to ask you, are you living to work or are you working for a living? And a lot of times, we live to work because that's where we find our fulfillment, our satisfaction. We find that as our mission, but your job is not your mission. Relationships are your mission that God has given all of us. And work should be this way, this means to the end to provide for our family. It's the blessing to our family. But some of us, if you're like me, work ends up competing with your family. So we need to make a choice today, a choice of who we will love and what we will do. And when you choose who you will love, you need to remember that love is spelled T-I-M-E. Love is spelled time. And you might want to argue with me going, Kasey, well, I have a different love language. My wife has a different love language, my family. And if you don't know what a love language is, you can look it up online, you take the test, figure it out, okay? In all of this, at the root of every person, you cannot love somebody without time. You just can't love somebody without time. You can't do your family and love your family. You can't just do it. You got to love them, and you have to spend time. See, love is like is built through time, like compound interest in your relationship. It's time invested over time has a compound effect in that relationship to where you've established that relationship that is a loving relationship. And so the question that I want to ask us today is one in your notes. What does your time say about who you love? What does your time say about who you love? And we all have most all of us here have jobs that demand more. We all have jobs that are demanding. But every one of us here have relationships that need something too. And we got to choose now. And today I want to help you make a choice that you're going to love your family and you're going to do your job. And you're not going to do your family by loving your job. And in order to help us see this, I want us to see how we can do this through one of the leaders of Israel, the president and CEO of Israel, if you will, at the time, was Moses. Moses didn't want this job. He didn't raise his hand for this job. God selected him for this job, and he became the leader of Israel. And not having any leadership school or any leadership books back then, he just kind of waffled into this position and managed it as well as he could have. And in this, the nation of Israel was so big, and he was trying to do the best he can, but he ended up probably maybe loving his job and doing his family. His family wasn't getting as much time, and his father-in-law raises his hand and says, Moses, we got an issue here. And this is the story behind this, and I want us to go to Exodus real quick and see how Moses works through this tension, if you will, and with Jethro's help. The next day, Moses takes his seat to serve as judge for the people. This was his role. And they stood around him from morning until evening. When his father-in-law, who is Jethro, not Jethro Bodine, he saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, what is this you're doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all the people stand around you from morning until evening? Moses answered him, because the people come to me. I mean, this is why they come to me. It's like I show up, they show up. This is why I do this. I go to work, the work shows up. And in this, they come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it's brought to me. And I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and instruction. It's almost like Moses is trying to make this case that, hey, well, I do this because they depend upon me. I mean, because I have a responsibility here, and they need me. This is why I do it. Look at all those people, millions of them. I've got to be there for them. And in this, Jethro replies, what you are doing is not good. Now, this is like Captain Obvious here, but for Moses, this was a voice of truth. And maybe you needed a voice like Moses in your life today. And if so, maybe this is something you need to underline, because what you're doing in loving your job and doing your family, it's not good. See, maybe you love the responsibility of all the people you help. And you love being the person that a lot of people at work come to, but you got no time for your kids when they need something and they can't come to you. Or when your spouse really needs you, you're not the person that she can turn to or he can turn to when they need you. You're there for all your employees. You're there for all the people, your colleagues. You're there for your boss whenever they need you at the drop of the hat. When it's dinner, you'll interrupt dinner to take the phone call because they need you. But sometimes in loving your job, you end up doing your family. See, what you're doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. See, work no longer is a blessing. You're wearing yourself out. You're leading yourself to burnout, Moses. And not only are you wearing your out, Jethro says you're wearing the people out that are coming to you. They're waiting all day. They're not getting their answers, and they could be doing other better things. And don't forget my daughter and my grandkids. You're wearing them out too. See, what you're doing is not good. And in Moses, you need to decide something. If you're going to cheat somebody, don't cheat your family. If you're going to cheat somebody, don't cheat your family. Oh, Kasey, that sounds rough. That's hard, but it's true. See, in order for us to kind of manage this tension, in order for us to love our family and do our job, we need to make up our mind now as to something. We need to make up our mind now about who we're going to cheat, our family or our job. And you need to decide this now. Before you leave today, you need to have this line drawn in the sand that you're going to choose. When the push comes to shove, when my work and my family collide, who am I going to cheat? Because that's exactly what you need to choose right now. Are you going to cheat your family or are you going to cheat your job? Because you will cheat one. You can't manage both and be successful at both. You've got to choose now which you're going to cheat. See, when these collide, you don't win at both of these. You have to choose one over the other. You got to choose one that will be cheated. See, we choose which we will cheat by identifying which is the most important to us. That's how you choose which you'll cheat, is which is the most important to you. See, when I love my job and do my family, I cheat my family out of the love they need. So who are you going to cheat today? Oh, Kasey, I just don't like that word cheat. We all cheat. Every day you cheat. I mean, you cheat your body out of the calories that you want because of something you want a little more, okay? To get something greater. You cheat yourself out of that desire to rest just so you can exercise. See, you cheat all day long. You cheat, you just don't call it cheating. But we cheat all the day. And cheating is not bad. It's only bad when we use it for selfish gain. I mean, it's only bad when it hurts those that are closest to us. See, cheating is a choice to give up one thing to gain the other. That's all cheating is. It's a choice to give up one thing to gain something else. The problem is sometimes in our relationships, we cheat someone and give up something with them to gain something from them. And we cheat to the relationship to gain something over here. And we've got to choose now, who are we going to cheat when the work and the family collide? Are you going to choose to love your family and do your job, or are you going to choose to love your job and do your family. And as you do this, just remember this. Don't substitute conditions for commitments. I mean, one of the hardest things that you want to do is try to justify what you're doing. And in that justification process, what we do is we substitute these if-when scenarios. Like, oh, hey, you know what, guys? I know it's taking a lot of time. This project's big. This is a season. It'll be for a couple weeks. How many times have I told my kids that? A couple weeks ends. Not a couple weeks. As soon as this project's done, when this project's done, Dad'll be able to devote some more time to you. But then another project comes up. See, we put conditions on our commitment that, oh, you know what, Mom really wants to get this promotion, and so I'm working really hard to get this promotion. And when I get this promotion, we're going to be able to take that vacation we've all wanted. We justify it. We justify it. See, we put our conditions there, but conditions can't replace commitments. So here's the reality in this. I know you can justify your time, but they can't. I mean, they can't. I mean, you can justify all that time that you've spent and because you're wanting to do it, but can they? Can your spouse justify that time? Can they judge whether that's love or not? See, we think we're doing the loving thing by providing for our family, and all they want is mom or dad at home. I mean, they could deal with less of an exotic vacation. They just want us for the problems that they face. And in this, we have to choose, who are we going to really cheat? Who are you going to cheat in life? Are you going to do your family, or are you going to love your family? And don't substitute those conditions for those commitments. See, conditional commitments are ways we cheat our family from the love that they need. And we need to instead tell them, you know what? I've been saying this for a while, and you know what? I'm not going to say this anymore. In family meeting, something's going to change. I don't know how it's going to change, but I'm telling you, something's going to change. And I make this commitment to you, that I'm committed to you more than I'm committed to my job. And that's exactly what Moses did. Moses ended up in that situation. He said, I've got to make a plan to change, and he made a plan to change. And this is how they made that plan. Jethro comes to Moses and says, listen now to me, and I will give you some advice. And may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to live and how they are to behave. This is your job description, Moses. This is what God hired you to do. This is what that company, you make this your job description. And then Moses gets the wisdom from Jethro. He gets the clarity he needs as to what his job description really was. And then Jethro helps and guides Moses through a plan to execute this job description. And then they go on, and then this is the plan. Select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men, who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but then have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases, they can decide for themselves. That will make your load lighter because they share it with you. See, a lot of times, I think we're like Moses. We like to be the one that all the responsibility lands on, and I get that. Man, I like responsibility. It's one of my greatest strengths is being responsible. But you know what happens? Is when you carry that and you think you are that, you put yourself in a place that you shouldn't be, and you put a demand on you that you shouldn't have, and you put a demand on your family that shouldn't be there. See, there's a way that you manage this tension, and you got to create a plan to manage that tension. See, if you do this, he goes on to say, this will make your load lighter. And in this, have them serve as judges for the people. And all those cases, it'll make your load lighter. And he goes, if you do this and God so commands, it's almost like if you make this plan and you present it to your boss, because God was Moses' boss. If God gives you permission, then you'll be able to stand the strain. You'll be able to manage that tension. You'll be able to stand up under it. And all these people will go home satisfied. See, when we manage this tension, when our job and our family collide, by choosing to cheat our family, you and your family, and even sometimes your work, they all can break under that choice that you make. But when we choose to cheat work, and we choose to love our family and do our job, we choose, and that choice leads us to be able to manage the tension that we have, just like Moses did. So we need to do what Jethro encourages Moses so we can love our family and we can do our job. And that's this: create a plan. Create a plan to leave work at work. Maybe this is something you need to do. Create a plan to leave work at work. How can you manage the time that you have? And if you're working 50, 60 hours a week, how can you take that 60 hours and make a plan to work 50 hours a week? And for those of you that are working 50 plus hours a week and it's demanding too much from your family, what could it look like to you put it down to 45? Here's what I know, and this is Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law says the work always grows, the work always grows the time you give it. You want me to prove it to you? You got company coming over in 30 minutes. How quickly can you clean that house? Fast. See, whatever time you give it, work always expands to the time you give it. And sometimes we need to manage ourselves in our work, and we need to choose, hey, 9 hours today. It's only going to be 10 hours today. I'm only going to do this 4 days this week, and whatever it is. I'm going to leave work at work. I'm not going to take my laptop home. I'm not going to let it bring it home. And you're going to have this honest conversation. You need to make a plan, whatever that plan is, to leave work at work. And here's a way that you can figure that out, is pray and seek wisdom in your plan and approach that conversation with tact. You need to pray and seek wisdom. You need to pray, ask God for wisdom. James 1:5 says he gives wisdom to whenever you ask. So why not ask God for a way that you can manage this tension? You can create a new plan to leave work at work. And then seek counsel from those around you. There's so much wisdom from other people who can help you become more efficient and more effective in this. And you can find that. And then when you do get that plan together, you approach that conversation with your supervisor with tact. You know what that means? You sensitively understand the demand and how this affects the organization. But you also are sensitive to the fact of the demand and the stress it's putting on your marriage, on your family. And you let them see both. And you give them permission to put that plan into action. And as you're doing this, you can remind yourself of your choice. See, as you're doing this, and that those tensions, and they come back, but just remind yourself of your choice of priority. And honor your commitment to work at work. And you remind them, hey, I want you to know that I'm going to be 100% committed to this job when I'm at this job. And in this, I'm not going to waste the time, and that may mean that you're not going to have as many conversations around the water cooler. You're not going to spend as much time browsing Facebook. You're going to work at work, because we waste so much time nowadays at work. And honestly, for some of us here, and I'm going to say all of us, some of us, your job you can get done in 8 hours or less. That might be your fear too, is if I do it in less, they might not need me. But your commitment is to your family. And we're going to choose to love our family and do our job. And we're going to not love our work and do our family. So Moses listens to his father-in-law, and he did everything he said. Put it all into place. He chooses these capable men. He puts them to action. And the way he does it is he puts them all over these leaders of all the people of Israel. And he puts officials over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. They serve as judges for the people at all times. And the difficult cases, they bring to Moses. And the simple ones, they decide themselves. And as the story goes, it's assumed the plan works. To love your family and do your work. See, the question for you is, are you going to love your family and do your work? And when you get to this moment that you got the plan, you know what you might need to do? Is pray for courage. And you're going to pray for courage to do this, to ask for a trial period to test the productivity of your plan. This might mean that you need to get your family around and say, guys, this is the day. I'm going to my supervisor. And this is the day. I want you to be praying with me. And I'm going to work hard for this. And this is my commitment, that when I'm at work, and I'm going to work hard. Why? Because I want to spend time with you. Because I want to go to your ball game. Because I don't want to miss that graduation ceremony. Because I want to go on a date with my wife, or I want to go on a date with my spouse, and I'm going to leave work at work. And I'm going to do my hardest. I'm going to work hard and honor God in that. As the New Testament epistles would encourage us. I'm going to do it. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to present this. I want you to pray with me. And I'm going to ask you to give me, God to give me the courage to do this, but also to do it with tact and sensitivity, because they need somebody that can execute on this level, and I need to do that. And here's the reality of it. For those of you that didn't like that word cheat, cheating isn't really cheating. See, cheating at work isn't really cheating. It's testing your productivity under different arrangements. And that's what you're going to do, because really, what organization doesn't want you to have a healthier home? Because every organization knows that when your home is healthier, you come to work healthier. You stay at a job longer. The culture's better because you're happier and you're healthier because of what is healthier at home. And you become a hero. You become a hero for your family, and who knows what you could spark in your work, that you could become more productive at your work and get better results because you're more effective and more efficient. Because you chose to love your family, and you chose to do your job when you're at your job. And when those tensions are there, and you don't know how to manage those tensions, and you don't know how to fix that tension, this is where you say, God, give me the wisdom to love my family, and give me the courage to do my job. Let me pray for you and pray that right now. God, there are so many of us here today that this might be where we're living at right now. And that's my prayer for them, that you give them the wisdom to know what to do with this, and give them the courage to put that into action. And there's some here that this is not for their season of life, but that season's coming. I pray that you give them the wisdom to put this aside and to remember this. And that principle, when it comes into play because their job and their family are colliding, may they have the wisdom to love their family and do their work. In your name, amen. Our prayer partners are available. They'd love to pray with you in any way. God bless you, Westside, and we'll see you next Sunday. He's away.